In a moment, I'm about to put 3 pieces of media on the screen, and I want to know if you guys can spot the common theme amongst all of them.
I want to talk about censorship, and they would much rather use words like unalive, instead of saying what the actual word is. And I genuinely believe that to do more harm than good, we should be able to call it exactly like it is. Not to make anyone uncomfortable, but to acknowledge and to educate and to have an open discussion about horrific events so we can make sure that they never happen again.
Were you able to pick up on the theme? The theme was child-friendly censorship. Let's talk about it. What's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Myopics, and today I wanted to share a little bit of a theory that I have with you guys in regards to the world and where we're at with censorship and just child friendliness as a whole. Because it is a theory, you know, I feel like the video is probably going to be a little bit more all over the place than my normal videos because it's not fully fleshed out, but that's why I want to hear you guys' comments down below in the comment section so we can kind of talk about it and put some foundation behind this. Anyway, with that being said, is it just me, or has anybody felt like the world is just entirely too kid friendly now? Oh, you wanted to watch this YouTube video regarding a very sensitive matter, but oh, they can't say the word they want to say. They gotta say something like grape. What are we talking about? Kool-Aid flavors? Oh, you've been expecting this remake of this game and you're expecting for it to come out remastered, but for some reason when you play the remastered version, it doesn't look like how you remember it being, and some of the very important topics that made the game that you liked have been removed entirely and cut from the remake. What's going on with that? Let's talk about in person. You're gonna find kids all over the place. You're gonna see kids in restaurants. You're gonna see kids at the beach. You're gonna see kids at the gym. Hell, it's so bad now. The casino is the only place I know where you're actively supposed to be making bad decisions on purpose. That's what the casino is made for. Gambling, drinking, smoking, cussing, and in some places a little bit of... A casino is the only place I know that is supposed to be filled with sin at all hours of the day, and you're gonna find kids there too. So if there are kids in places like these where they're clearly not supposed to be, where are there not children? The language recently has just been,
what about the kids? Watch what you're doing, there are kids here.
What about the adults? And I'm not saying that to be
facetious,
but seriously, what about the adults? You know, I completely believe in the fact that it is our responsibility as adults to make sure that we are not exposing children to any type of content or any type of behaviors that are going to adversely affect them as they're developing. But the thing is, in an effort to make the world more safe for the children, we've completely eradicated spaces for adults as a whole. If you don't believe me, just keep on watching. When we ask the question, where are the spaces for adults at now? There's only one obvious answer. I'm not the type to call you back tomorrow. And the answer is correct. The clubs and the bars. The issue with this though, and the only adult spaces that are geared for adults, specifically for adults by adults, where adults are allowed to be adults, is that the clubs and the bars only fit one facet of person, one type of person. And to be honest with you, as an adult, you only got a couple of days off. Is that even how you want to spend your free time? It really sucks that you spend all this time putting in hard work and censoring yourself, you know, whether it be at home because you've got kids of your own or in public because there are kids, just for you to be reduced to one type of space, and it may not even be a space that you're into. Outside of that, we have to acknowledge the fact that the clubs and the bars are only open from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. max. So it really sucks to know that you waited your entire life, you know, you grew up as a kid excited to become an adult because you just want those restrictions gone, just for you to become an adult, and now you're restricted between the hours of 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Where else is it that we're allowed to be? It seems like there are no spaces for us in public as well as online. The original reason I started even thinking about this topic is because of the fact that I saw this video that I'm gonna put on the screen. Now, in seeing this video, I can only speak from my perspective in the place that I'm living now, which is the United States, and we don't have private beaches. We don't have private water parks. We don't have private pools for just adults only. So it kind of sucks to sit here and see this moral policing where it's like, there are kids present, learn how to behave yourself. Where else are you going to wear these small bikinis at? Where are you gonna wear these small bikinis at? And there's nowhere for adults specifically. You're saying don't wear it because there are kids present, but there's kids everywhere, damn it. And unfortunately, this is not the generation where we can afford to have houses, so we can just have these private booty butt naked pool parties in the backyard. I hate to say it, but those days are over. So, and one of the media industries that I've seen, most affected by this policing to make things more accessible and more kid friendly is the gaming industry. Back when I was younger, there was a clear distinction between what games are for children and what games are not for children. And with that being said, that's the reason I put the example of Five Nights at Freddy's in the intro, because I'm gonna ask you the question, if you know about Five Nights at Freddy's, is Five Nights at Freddy's a kid's game or an adult game?
You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious.
Really think about it. If it's not a kid's game, why is there such a big child fan base? Why did so many children gravitate towards it? If it's an adult's game, which would make sense alluding to the fact that there are some really heavy, really dark themes in it, why do the adults have to search so hard for the more adult themes in these games, through things like having to read the books or looking at breakdown videos? When you can't tell the difference between a game that's clearly meant for children and a game that's clearly meant for adults, it kind of creates this system where they're finally together. You knew that you were playing an adult game because the themes were kind of explicitly stated. Silent Hill is a really good example of a game that is not for children. The themes in there, the undertones and the overtones are clearly not made for children to be consuming. Other games like God of War or even Call of Duty, when did Call of Duty go from an adult's game to a kid's game? How did we become enmeshed together in our activities and behaviors? Outside of that too, YouTube is another great example. When you are an adult, you're looking for other adults to talk about adult topics, and our censorship has gotten so extreme now to the point to where even though we're all adults, even though we all know what it is that someone is talking about when they're talking about something that's, a very heavy and dark theme, we can't outright call it for what it is. I feel like to an extent that's disturbing because it takes away from the gravity of the situations that we are looking at as adults. It's kind of interesting that we're not allowed to say things like, and we're grown adults. I just think that's kind of interesting, and it's like, what is the point in putting in these restrictions like YouTube Kids and making sure that there are areas for kids to be, yet in the same breath restricting the adults so much to the point to where people are losing out on money and being demonetized in their livelihoods because of the fact that they just can't, they can't be an adult and say these words. I don't think that makes too much sense. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it seems like in the world there has been a really big intolerance for children recently.
Can we please stop normalizing hating children? And I've seen people that talk about F them kids, I hate kids, I hate toddlers.
People who hate children are just genuinely dangerous people. People who think that they are entitled to a child-free world where they get to go into whatever space they want and there's never going to be a child acting like a child is just absurd.
When did society, particularly the one that I am a part of, decide that kids were not allowed to be kids? Babies are not allowed to be babies, toddlers, no, 5-year-olds, no, 13, no. Everybody is expected to behave like adults.
When I say children, I mean anybody who's under the age of 18. I know that especially in talking about some of these things, a child is not the same thing as a teenager. They all happen to be in spaces where adults are at the same time because of the fact that there is no separation of interest. That's how capitalism works, where if you can sell to kids and adults, you're gonna make more money. it takes away from the type of content that you can put in because kids are going to consume it, and it leaves adults wanting for more. With that being said though, it's extremely hard to say the world is too kid friendly when clearly, doesn't it look like some of these kids are a little grown now? Sephora kids, YNs. These kids now are out here running around grown as, I mean, come on now. 12 years old with lashes and a bust down. YN, Sephora kids having a 10-step face routine, and you still smell like breast milk and diapers. When you have to think about the way that the kids are accelerating now, this is just another side to the same problem. The reason why children are accelerating and developing so quickly, and the reason why adults are so intolerant of children now, is because we are sharing the same spaces. There literally is no separation. So it is exposing kids to things, languages, and themes that they shouldn't be exposed to. And you're just gonna end up with these problems where it's like we're sharing space as adults now with literal children, and they're sharing space with us. I want to put this example on the screen of a mom whose daughter was being bullied, and I just want you guys to take a look at the language that was being used.
My 5th grade student, which is 10 years old, which I got consent from her to share these screenshots, has been bullied and harassed by another 5th grade student. And these are the type of messages I have never thought that I would see coming from an 11-year-old girl in my entire life. They are that disturbing.
This child is getting talked to like a grown woman. I don't think in any of my years of life have I ever been talked to like that, let alone by somebody under the age of 15. I mean, what is really going on out here? Like I said, this is just a theory, so there's a lot of different ways that this can go. Parenting is definitely at play. The internet is definitely at play. Capitalism is definitely at play. There's so many things at play for why things are the way that they are now. But we still have to acknowledge the fact that children even have access to these conversations, knowing what's going on in the Diddy trial enough to be able to say Diddy. Knowing how to cuss somebody out like this, whatever type of media you're around, clearly you're being exposed to something that you should not be being exposed to. It's a little bit messy, and that's the reason I really want to hear you guys' feedback in the comments on what you think about this. Do you feel like kid and adult spaces are too enmeshed? Do you feel like we as adults are losing out on different forms of content in the sake of trying to be appropriate for children? Do you feel like you've seen your life be affected personally because of censorship? I'm curious about all of you guys' thoughts. And, maybe after we get some more comments and we talk about it a little bit more, maybe we can clean it up and come to a shared conclusion. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.